All rise. District Court's now in session. Honorable Stephen Boyce, Judge presiding.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are going on the record. Madam Court Reporter, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, thank you. This is case CR 22-21-1624, State of Idaho versus Noreen Vallow. The matter before the court today is for a verdict in the jury trial that's been conducted over the last several weeks in this case. The court will note on the record, prosecution is here represented by Mr. Wood, Ms. Blake, and Ms. Smith. The defense, Mr. Archibald, Mr. Thomas are present, as well as the defendant who is present. The court's been advised that the jury has reached a verdict at this time. Is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. Let's have the jurors brought in, please. While the jurors are being brought in, I'd like to indicate that this matter is being live streamed on the court's YouTube channel. In addition, the court's existing conduct order is in effect, and everyone needs to comply with that conduct order. This verdict has several counts. The court is going to require that all in attendance abstain from any sort of loud outbursts or sounds that could in any way affect the proceedings in this matter as the counts are read in the verdict. And I expect to maintain order and decorum, as has been the case throughout this trial, with those in attendance, so please keep that in mind once we get to this stage of these proceedings. So with that in mind, if the jurors are ready, they can be seated.
All rise, please. Jury's all present, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated. All right, the court will note that we had alternate jurors that were excused upon deliberations, so now the remaining 12 jurors who have deliberated are here and appear to all be properly seated. Will counsel stipulate that the jury is all present and properly seated from the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
Will the defense will stipulate?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, at this time, the court will inquire then from the jury. Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yeah.
Very well. If you have the verdict form, I'd ask the bailiff bring that over here and we'll have it brought to the clerk to be read. All right, the court has reviewed the verdict form, find that it's been properly completed, signed and dated, so at this time I'll direct the clerk to please read the verdict into the record. The defendant would please rise.
In the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho, in and for the County of Fremont, State of Idaho Plaintiff versus Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell Defendant, case number CR 211624. Verdict. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn to try the above entitled action for our verdict, unanimously answer the questions submitted to us as follows. Question number 1. In regards to count 1 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan and grand theft by deception? Answer, guilty. Question number 2. In regards to count 2 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan? Answer, guilty. Question number 3. In regards to count 3 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow and grand theft by deception? Answer, guilty. Question number 4. In regards to count 4, the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow? Answer, guilty. Question number 5. In regards to count 5 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell? Answer, guilty. Question number 6. In regards to count 7 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of grand theft? Answer, guilty. Dated this 12th day of May, 2023, signed by the presiding officer.
All right, please be seated. Madam Clerk, thank you for reading the verdict into the record. At this time, let me just inquire of the jury, is this in fact your true and correct verdict?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Let me ask now from counsel, does the state wish to have the jury polled?
We do not, Your Honor.
Does the defense wish to have the jury polled?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, the jury will be polled at this time. Madam Clerk, if you would please indicate only by juror numbers of each of the jurors if this is their true and correct verdict individually.
Juror number 4, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror number 5, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Criminal counts. I want to bring in Morgan Loew. Morgan, you have been investigating this case from the very beginning, really from ground zero and for years now. First of all, curious what your initial reaction is.
Well, it's always a surprise to hear what the jury has to say, because we may cover this case, we may watch it and have an opinion about what happened and what we think the outcome is going to be, but the jury has the final say. The jury deliberated for just 7 hours.
Yeah.
They stayed late last night. That was an indication that a verdict was near. They came in this morning, deliberated for a couple of more hours, guilty on all charges. Not surprising given the case that the prosecution made. The prosecutors in this case, it was a masterful prosecution. They put down the evidence, they listed the evidence, and as the case went on, their narrative closed in on Lori Vallow. And they just hit point after point, connecting her to the deaths of her children and the death of Chad Daybell's wife. And it was sort of a punctuation mark at the end when prosecutors rested their case, and then the defense said, we're going to rest without calling a single witness. Now, was that the defense throwing in the towel, or did they just think, look, at this point, if the jury believes she did it, we're not going to be able to change their mind, and we just hope that one of those jurors believes that maybe there wasn't the evidence that connected her to the case. It was a unanimous decision, had to be guilty on all charges.
You know, there's lots of speculation about that very move, about calling no witnesses whatsoever. Could that lead to an appeal down the roadway? And then also, too, a lot of people are wondering, okay, now what are the implications for Chad Daybell?
Yeah, lots of implications for Chad Daybell on this. And yes, defendants will appeal for anything. Let's go over the charges here. So the death of J.J. Vallow, murder and conspiracy to commit murder. And that's the same charges for both J.J. and Tylee. Now, the difference between murder and conspiracy, in conspiracy, the jurors had only to find that Lori aided and abetted the plot to kill the kids. But for first-degree murder, they had to find that she directed them, that she was the impetus for this. And the prosecution said that Lori Vallow used her manipulation skills. She groomed her brother to commit these murders, and she manipulated Chad Daybell. And that was their case, and the jury buys it with all of these guilty verdicts here.
So back to Chad Daybell himself. Does he even have a case, number one? And number two, does the prosecution try to get Lori Vallow to take the stand?
Well, this is not good news for Chad Daybell, because as much evidence as they had against Lori, they have physical evidence that Chad was there when the kids were buried, and Chad was there when his wife died, and he was not honest about how his wife died. So he's going to face trial either at the end of this year or the beginning of next year. Now, as for, sorry, what was the second question?
Do you think the prosecutors will try to convince Lori Vallow to take the stand herself?
That's right. So you can't compel a spouse to testify against another spouse. They can do it voluntarily, and you have to think that prosecutors leading up to this were trying to get one of these couples to flip and testify against the other. It didn't work. In fact, the defense attorney even said on the stand in closing arguments, the defense attorney said that Lori Vallow lied to protect Chad. So they are still apparently in this together and have each other's back.
You know, Morgan, you dove so deep into this case in so many facets, and there are so many arms and avenues that we could go down with regards to this case. I want to explore a little bit the whole doomsday thinking. I mean, do investigators start looking closer at those who are thinking in these same veins? So
this was a really weird case, because Lori and Chad talked about these fringe religious beliefs, and prosecutors and the investigators allege that they use those religious beliefs to sort of brainwash and manipulate this close group of friends that they had, including Lori's brother, who is the person that prosecutors believe killed the kids and Lori's ex-husband. And we'll show you the family tree here and how these people fit together. So you had Alex Cox is Lori's brother. He is the person that investigators believe murdered Charles Vallow, who was Lori's husband. Then on the right, Chad Daybell. Lori married Chad after her husband, Charles, was murdered, and after Chad's wife, Tammy Daybell, was murdered. And then you've got the two kids below them. So prosecutors believe that Lori and Chad use these religious beliefs to sort of brainwash this group of people around them to get Alex Cox to commit these murders in furtherance of this conspiracy. But in real life, prosecutors say it wasn't that Lori and Chad believed this stuff. It's that they used this to get them to do this so they could get money from life insurance policies and Social Security benefits from the kids and spouses, and so that they could be together without having anybody in their way.
You know, Morgan, I think it's arguably one of the most high-profile cases we've seen in the U.S. in many, many years, and many of us have followed the details, the proceedings, et cetera. However, you know what? To a set of grandparents, this was very, very personal, and I know that you have been in contact with J.J. and Tylee's grandparents. How might they be feeling right now?
Very personal. They took this case personally. In fact, if it hadn't been for Kay Woodcock, it may have been much longer before investigators started looking for the kids. So leading up to today, they had told people out in front of the courtroom, other reporters who I know, that they were confident it was going to be a guilty verdict. This has been their crusade to get justice for the kids. And I know here in the Phoenix area, in Chandler in particular, Tylee's friends live here. JJ's friends and teachers are here. So this verdict is personal to people all over the Phoenix area as well. And we also have some breaking news now with regard to this case. I spoke to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office this morning, and they do plan to extradite Lori Vallow to come here after this to face murder charges in the death of Charles Vallow, her former husband. In some cases, once there's a guilty verdict like this, a prosecutor's office will say, well, we're going to hold off. We're going to put on the back burner, or maybe even we will drop the charges because this person is going to prison or maybe in prison for life. Maricopa County Attorney's Office is planning to extradite Lori to Arizona to face those charges.
And so this plan of Lori Vallow's, the house of cards, continues to fall. Morgan, thank you so much for your work. Hang tight with me. We'll have more coverage right after this.